Yesterday we were just blessed with some great news because, like Uber Eats or maybe a package from DHL or FedEx, Ben Simmons just showed up at Wells Fargo Arena practically unannounced, and Elton Brand wasn't expecting him. So we're gonna go to you first, EB. Ben Simmons, right? He's had a crazy offseason. I mean, our Hawks, shout out to the city that starts with an A. We sent him packing. I think we stripped him of his pride and his dignity. And the Philly fans, they really felt that. And they voiced that. Doc Rivers said how he felt about it. I mean, Joel Embiid spoke about it. And then Ben kind of said, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to be on a team that's built around me, that maximizes my skills. He talked about how, Philly was not sensitive to his mental health. So he tried to hold out. But I was telling people, man, look, Daryl's going to win this. I love Clutch, but Daryl might have the biggest dick in the NBA. Like, Daryl's going to win this. Pause.
Where's your sound effect for that?
Huh?
So where's your sound effect for that?
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
That's for Grudy.
Yeah.
But anyways, over to you, Eric, man. Give me your initial thoughts on what's up with Ben Simmons, his holdout, and him actually showing back up with his tail in between his legs.
None of this surprises me. Like, if we all saw him in the playoffs, he was a complete dud against the Atlanta Hawks, who are a good team. I'm sure we're going to talk about them later. They're a good team. They should have beaten the Knicks, and it should have ended there with Trey being like the villain in Madison Square Garden. We had a great time. They should have lost that series in 5. Should have been a gentleman's sweep, and Ben Simmons was a dud. Then got pulled from the Olympics. He didn't have any problems. Clutch told him, we can't have a bigger sample size of you being trash in big-time basketball. And he was going to be playing a team with KD, Dame, and a bunch of other NBA superstars. And it was going to be him and Patty Mills. So if you can't do it with Joel Embiid, you're not doing it with Patty Mills. So we going to yank you because we can't have people seeing you playing bad. We didn't see any of them videos of him shooting in the offseason. Like, Ben got the jumper going. Like, none of that was around. And now he wants to go. He wanted to at first go to the LA teams or the Warriors. Wasn't happening. Like, who were they going to give up for you? And now he wants to go. He honestly should be on a team that's bad. So then if they don't perform, no one's going to blame him. Look at the dudes who get numbers on bad teams. People are like, oh, this dude's a hooper. He needs to be on a good team. That's why he wants to go to a bad team. He wanted out. There were not any suitors. So now he's coming back with his tail between his legs because he's not getting what he wants. He's under contract. Like, what did he think was going to happen? Why would they suit his needs when they have him under contract?
Before I go to you, Parlay Pete, maybe he wanted to go to LA. We can't give you LA, but here's what we can do. We can give you LA East, DC. You join up with Kuz, you join up with KCP, you join up with Trez, and you get the closest thing to the LA experience that you can get playing NBA basketball right now.
But what do they get for him if they send him to DC? They're not getting Bradley Beal.
I mean, that's the only piece I would want. We'll give you Ben and Maxey and Matisse if you want him.
Yeah, I just don't see them giving up anything for him. His stock had plummeted at that point, so they could get Lonzo and 2 Red Bulls.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, he was on the dollar menu. I mean, yeah, somebody will take you, but it's going to be somebody that doesn't eat good. They don't really care about themselves, or they were really drunk, one or the other. You know what I mean? That's who was going to take you. And at this point, I'm glad that he caved in, because look, you guys make too much money to not be making money. You know what I mean? Like, you make too much money for that. And Ben is just he's in one of those situations where he knows the fans don't want him back either. You know what I mean? Like, because think about that. A passionate city like Philly, he's got to go back and deal with that. If his play doesn't speak for itself, he's going to get booed regardless. And maybe it's going to be one of those things that does carry over into the regular season, kind of like last year with Harden, when Houston was playing with him and it was apparent like he didn't want to be there. Like, he was very straightforward about it. They got these COVID regulations. This guy's smacking ass, in strip clubs, hanging out with Lil Baby, like all that shit. And he was able to get his way. Now, granted, James Harden is an MVP. He's he's an elite player. Even his defense, regardless of how bad he is defensively, and he actually improved on. I thought he looked like he gave a damn playing defense in Brooklyn, especially in the playoffs while he was half hurt. He was actually doing a pretty fucking good job, I thought, using his size or whatever. But Ben isn't him, and so that's kind of the issue. He had to come back down to earth. These guys haven't been told no their entire lives. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when Ben was at LSU, it was his team. They didn't have to make the NCAA tournament, but Ben,
and they sucked.
Yeah, they sucked, exactly. And these guys aren't used to being told no, and he got a dose of reality that he's not worth that much in the league, especially on that contract. And so he really had no other choice. Good move by him. I don't know how that's going to fuck with the chemistry. We already know, like I said, how the fans are going to react. He's going to have to let his play speak for itself, and maybe he can get traded before All-Star week.
But I mean, honestly, anytime the going gets tough for him, he punks out. Like, look what happened at LSU. Look at what happened with the Sixers. The only time we've literally seen him at the top of his game was in high school when he was bigger and better than everybody. And his starting five all went D1 and literally all went to the league. Maybe there's like one person who didn't.
Yeah.
Like, they were smashing everybody, number one team in the nation. They've been the number one team in the nation for like 5 years now. So I'm saying once it got tough when he was at LSU, he just gave up on that season. And then he got to the Sixers and is doing the same thing. When it gets tough and Ben Simmons needs to grit up, he does not do that.
Well, I was out on Ben Simmons a long time ago. Well, I shouldn't say out. I told y'all, man, Brandon Ingram over Ben Simmons. And they said, oh, you're just a Duke homer. Ben Simmons does this, he does that. And once he develops his game, he never developed his game. And then you look at his draft class, another one of his draft mates, Jaylen Brown. Who you want today? Jaylen Brown, who can give you 25 for real? Like 25 real buckets? Brandon Ingram, all-star, 2 all-stars. Would you want Ben Simmons? I'll go to you, Eric, first. Like, which one would you want? B.I., Ben, or Jaylen?
Right now, I would take B.I. and Tatum over Ben. But when you said that take, you were wilding. Because you think about it, Philly was talking about they need to trade one of the two of them. And people were saying, like, you got to get Embiid out of there. He's getting in the way of Ben Simmons. And now it's much more apparent, like, Ben is the one that needs to go. But that could flip-flop again. Like, Embiid, barring injury, was the MVP this season. And it was at the beginning of the season, we got to get Embiid out of here. Like, Ben needs to be able to have his own team to be able to run. And those two don't work in his own team. Maybe it's better. I still don't think in his own team he's B.I. or Jaylen. I think there's a lot he needs to do with his game. But you were wilding for that take back then.
Hey, man, sometimes they call geniuses crazy, but then when stuff comes true, I mean, sometimes you're a visionary. But Parlay P, do you think that Ben Simmons in the right situation could be Giannis light?
Absolutely not. He doesn't. Yeah, he does a lot of things well, but he doesn't do, the things that he doesn't do well, he doesn't improve on either. Giannis, we actually saw the leap of him doing well. Giannis couldn't shoot a 3-point ball. Now it's respectable enough to where you're not going to leave him wide open. People will leave Ben Simmons wide open.
No. You'll leave him wide open, but he'll just make one every now and then. Ben just won't shoot it.
Well, but that's my point. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So in that case, that's exactly what that is. He's not, whether he takes it or he doesn't take it. There's a clip of him against the Hawks. He won't even shoot a fucking layup. He was wide open on the block once and
Pierce, remember the game that we went to, and you could just see how defeated Ben Simmons was on the court. Like, Eric, let me tell you, we're at this game, and it's one thing to see stuff on TV, but to be in the arena and watching that every time Ben Simmons got the ball, he got booed. And when he would just when he would come out the game, he gets booed. When he comes in the game, he gets booed. And he would just go to the end of the bench, like tail tucked between legs. You could just see the fear in him just being in the arena. You go, this guy just doesn't have it at all. He Like another guy that they drafted to that team, Markelle Fultz. He just had the whips or whatever they called it, the yips. He was just, it was just his self-esteem was zapped. So when he came out and said something about the team not being responsive to his mental health issues, I believe him. And I don't think he was using it as just an excuse, because I watched somebody who had their confidence pulled from them in a playoff series, whereas he's probably never been told no ever in his life for anything that mattered to him. So, he's not used to that. He hasn't had to deal with that adversity. Like one of you said earlier, when the tough gets going, kind of like our boy Herb, Ben gets going.
He reminds me of that meme. There's a meme about like junior sailors in the military, and it's like, I joined the military to get a Charger, and y'all making me do all this work. Like I just wanted to get the Camaro with a Charger. And Ben Simmons is like, yo, I just signed up so I can make money and date models, and y'all out here like,
no.
Y'all wanted me to play basketball.
Say fuck hoes. Just say fuck. You can't say fuck hoes. I can say I just doing the fuck hoes.
IG model, whatever you want to say. That he's like, I wanted to make some money, be out here styling, like doing the fashion thing, whatever, and talking to IG models, and y'all want me to finish in the playoffs? Like this is not what I signed up for. That's what he reminds me of. What do you mean you want me to make a layup in the playoffs when Trae Young, who's 5'9" on his best day, is guarding me in the post? Why would I do that? I want to slide in DMs.
Right, I'm supposed to be fucking a Kardashian. Isn't this the rite of passage of the NBA? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like you guys aren't talking about. Nobody talks about Lamar Odom that way. You know what I mean? He doesn't get that type of talk. Everybody talks about his drug problem. Nobody talks about what he did on the court. I made more money than him already. And so Ben is just one of those guys that he's such a polarizing, like in terms of his talent on the court, he's polarizing because there's so many people that really do believe. I've heard somebody call him baby LeBron. If he developed the shot, that he's LeBron James. And of course, there's the Magic Johnson comparisons too. I've never seen it personally. Even at Ben's best, last year when they said that the Rockets would have traded, Ben Simmons for James Harden, and they didn't do it, I'm just thinking to myself, man, and Morey, and we know that Morey is the one that wanted. Morey wanted Harden. That's why he sent that love letter to him at the beginning of the season. You know what I mean? Because for all intents and purposes, he was the most important player in Daryl Morey's career in regards to an acquisition. And that was the start of something nice in Houston. They never finished it. And who knows, if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt all the time, maybe they do beat Golden State. We'll never know. But he was obviously championing the idea of bringing him in. And it's just like, so was it the owner? Was it Elton?
Oh, it's Tillman.
It was the Rockets owner.
It was Tillman Fertitta. He's like, I'm not going to help Morey. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a package that's going to equate to nothing instead of taking a player who I can actually build around.
Or just do what Houston did anyways. And they ended up, the players that they got, they traded away anyways for something. You could have taken Ben Simmons in just to trade him to somebody else almost.
I look back at that trade and I understand why Fertitta didn't want to help Daryl, but that was just fucking stupid. I mean, what are you going to do?
Hey, he owns the Gold Nugget, right, in Vegas?
Yeah.
He's a gambler. There you go. That's why.
But KD ends up signing an extension, so it's like, well, KD's going to be locked up in Brooklyn pretty much through the time of the draft picks that you expect to receive. You're getting nothing. And here's the thing about Ben, where you can't even put him in the same category as a Jimmy Butler, a James Harden, any other disgruntled player, Anthony Davis, who demanded a trade. Dog, you got 4 years left on contract. What do you mean you want to leave? I'm like, no, you're going to be here until I can get what I want from you. And I think he should have played in the Olympics. I mean, look at what Luka did in the Olympics. He elevated his profile even more. We had Americans out here, mainly white Americans, rooting for Luka to win the gold. And I'm like, oh, y'all are rooting against America.
Well, it was people that legitimately thought, hey man, if Slovenia plays the United States, I don't know. You know what I mean?
No, Bill Simmons was saying, and I'm like, yo, KD will go bucket for bucket with this nigga, with Zach LaVine, with Dame Lillard, with Bam, with Chris Middleton, with Devin Booker on his side. Luka got me and you.
A little bit paler, but yeah, I get it. I get it. You know, but yeah, Ben might have, like you said, helped his profile out a little bit more if he did play in the Olympics, especially because Australia did so well, of course, and they were kind of, for an international squad, they were a little bit stacked. Like, you know what I mean? I think that most people don't even realize just how many Australian players are. Like, you know, Joe Ingles, bro. Like
after France, and even up there with France, like they got pretty good NBA talent on the team.
They really put it this way: they can have an NBA lineup from a standpoint of just like a regular NBA rotation, a 1 through 8 that they play, and it's nothing but.
Nothing 3-4 players will do it for you. 3-4 NBA players will do it.
Nothing but stars and actual role players in the NBA on that team. Like,
and I'll tell you the difference between like a France, an Australia, and like the USA is those teams actually stock their rosters with role players who can do the things that our players won't do. I'm sorry, you're asking Zach LaVine to sit down in the chair and play defense because
he actually stepped up and was locking people up in the Olympics. He had the straps on in the Olympics.
He did. I shouldn't have said LaVine. But you get what I'm saying. Like the USA, we put our best scorers out there and say, "Hey, yo, go beat these go out here and run and play ball."
Not over technique for sure is definitely it. But you also got to look at it this way too. This was Pop's first year coaching the USA team. You used to Coach K, kind of more so running that run and gun talent. Is this Pop's bringing his Spurs system to USA basketball?
And Keldon Johnson.
Keldon Johnson's fucking playing like minutes, like because he knows his system. You know what I mean? That's the
because he's his player. If I'm the coach, my son is batting third. He's playing pitcher. My son is the quarterback. My son is the point guard. My son is doing everything. So I get exactly why Keldon Johnson was on that team. My son is going everywhere.
This man Keldon Johnson might be the worst gold medalist in USA basketball history.
Okay.
Christian Laettner.
No. Christian Laettner came out of college as that guy. Should Shaq have been?
You're right. I give you that. You're right. And he actually was an all-star. He
was an all-star 1 year for the Hawks.
For what it's worth, Keldon Johnson's honestly, because I did NBA fantasy last year too, and he was on my team. He's honestly a good young player, though. Now he's not. His ceiling is like
he's not an Olympian.
The productivity of like Jamal McGlure with the Hornets. Jamal McGlure made all-star games with the Hornets. He did. A lot of people don't even remember it. You know what I mean? And think about it. I'm not even giving him the David West shine, but Jamal McGlure was an all-star in the NBA. And that's a name you haven't heard in fucking 10 years. But I'm just saying, in terms of what he can be for like a team like the Spurs, he has that type of like ceiling to where he can eventually one day be a one-time all-star, two-time all-star. So he's a good young talent. I like him.
I believe that. I just wanted to take an easy pot shot at him. One last thing on this Ben Simmons thing, because I think the clutch haters are taking their victory lap here because they're like, clutch gave in. They finally didn't get what they want. That nigga is not gonna win this time. But I mean, for one, no agency wins every time. What Rich Paul and Clutch is doing is nothing different than any of the mega agents have ever done in any sport. But do y'all have any words for the Clutch haters for them finally taking an L in a negotiation?
You love to see it.
Are you anti-Clutch?
I don't like the way they move. Like, yes, every mega agent has some shady dealings. So he just lumped in there with me. I like what he's doing, getting his paper. Like, my man's do a thing. But as much as I love Anthony Davis coming to the Lakers, I don't like how he drove his way out of it. Granted, I understand he had a gripe, but now with Ben Simmons, like, you're not going to get the same treatment that LeBron's going to get. You're not going to get the same treatment AD is going to get. And it backfired on him. And they thought
you're not gonna get the same treatment John Wall was getting back when John Wall got the Supermax.
Yeah, so it's just kind of cool to see it. Like, I don't mind Rich Paul leveraging what he's got when it's the players that can make these kind of moves. But hey, Ben, that's not you.
Rich Paul can't just keep winning. You know what I mean? Everybody takes an L every now and then. This man is sidelined with Adele. Adele's looking great, by the way.
She is.
Hello. She looks. I can't honestly. I couldn't. When I saw, I think she was on Vogue or something. I saw the picture and I was like, "Damn!" I was like, "That's Adele." Like,
didn't you send it to the group? Yeah,
I think I did because I was like, I couldn't fucking believe it. She looks fantastic. But regardless, Rich can't. He can't just hold all the W's to himself. And
got John Wall of Supermax. That man has not played an NBA season's worth of games since he signed his Supermax.
And then for what it's really worth, come on, let's get the elephant out of it. This was a fuck you to LeBron James. Indirectly.
Yeah.
It is, because we all know that essentially Clutch is just the player ran agency. That is exactly what that is. I'm not trying to discredit Rich Paul at all. No. But Rich gets that money from LeBron. It's LeBron. LeBron has his own agency. That is his Rock Nation to Jay-Z. Like, you know what I mean? That's exactly what that shit is. And I'm not calling Rich Paul a puppet or anything, because he isn't. I think that they're legit. Like, Rich Paul legitimately is doing this stuff. But this is just another, like, kind of like LeBron, you can't control everything in the league type shit. Like, you know what I mean? And granted, it's not like Ben Simmons was coming to the Lakers or anything, but LeBron, his influence over the league, it's just one of those things. He's getting older. They got Russ, and as a Lakers fan myself, like, we'll see what happens with that. But
we'll get to them. You say that, and I didn't think about it that way, but yeah.
It is, bro.
Because the league assumes that LeBron is Rich Paul's Geppetto, and he's just Pinocchio out here. Where I think he just has a relationship with the best player in the league, and y'all are mad that y'all don't have him as a client. CAA, he left y'all to go independent, and yeah, because they like, bro, Rich Paul didn't come up through the ranks like he was supposed to. And now he just trying to run the league. And he out here saying, hey, bro, that last year on his contract, you might as well avoid it because you got to move us because we're not going to re-sign. Get you an asset. He found the loophole.